Just turning to the technology, some of the things that you guys have been out in the forefront of have been open source, free and open source software, as well as now cloud computing and other things. What do you see as the most exciting things coming up over the next year, and how do you see these things, some of these playing out?
I think cloud is obviously an important trend. I think we see that here, right? So Enterprise 2.0, has evolved over the past couple of years. I've been coming to this show, but the cloud focus here is really pretty intense. There's been a lot of time spent talking about cloud and cloud opportunities. Both from an infrastructure perspective in terms of what are the platforms that you can build upon, but also from an asset application perspective. So. Speaking primarily of software as a service type opportunities. So, I think cloud is, again, it's no secret, and it's actually kind of I think in danger of being overhyped. I think in many cases, but it's a really important fundamental trend, in the computing space, and I think it will continue to be, and it will continue to, take its place alongside some of the more critical pieces of enterprise infrastructure. Besides that, I think one of the pieces that I wrote up last week on Google Wave. Google Wave, I think, is a potentially very, very interesting piece of technology in that it explodes a couple of different traditional notions. So the traditional notion of what messaging is, messaging meaning email as opposed to messaging in the MQ sense of the word. But it also gets at what is, I think, going to be a fairly fundamental transformation and transition in the collaboration space. So the idea, what is a document, right? So a document traditionally has obviously been something that one or more people produced, and they spit out maybe a .doc file or maybe a .pdf. These days documents very often incorporate dynamic information. So information that may be updated in real time. It might include video. It might include a lot of different types of assets, and it might be worked on by a lot of different people in a variety of settings, both inside and outside the firewall. So the idea of what a document is, I think, was bound to change. And I think Google Wave will do a lot to accelerate that conversation, to try to help us redefine, well, what is it? What does it look like? What are the pieces that can go into that? How is it worked on? And so on. And we're already seeing that, certainly anybody who's used Google Docs, for example, it's a much more efficient process. Actually these days, as you might expect, a lot of people being out of work, I've helped work on and look at a lot of resumes. So the old process for that used to be, somebody email me a resume, I'd look at it, make changes, call it something different, send it back. It's a hassle. Now it's just all online and versioned, and you can snapshot it when you need to. So we'll see more of that, but we'll see more of that in a document looks consistently and radically different than it does today. It'll incorporate dynamic spreadsheets. It'll incorporate audio and visual. So video podcast just like this might become part of a document. So that's an interesting piece of technology. I think we'll see where that goes.